Hello, everybody. Welcome to Good News York, sponsored by Ads on the Go. Get ads on the go. It's your guy, Mike Brindisi, flying solo. Matt is not in this morning. He had to go to the veterinarians for himself, not his animals. So I'm going to fly solo. You know, as you may know, some of you have been listening or watching, I'm a big sports fan. And I did an NFL draft special. It seemed to go over fairly well. And I made sure to cut clips of all the things that I got right and not to show you the things that I got wrong. But I had a great time doing it. And so I wanted to do a big Thursday kickoff special tomorrow for the NFL season. But with Matt being gone, our crack producer, Danny Tripodi, came up with a great idea. Let's do it today. So I threw a bunch of pictures on the table to make it look nice for you. And I found an old Syracuse Chiefs jersey in Matt's office. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Jason Smorrell from the Syracuse Mets. And we're going to do this thing. Tomorrow night kicks off the 2025 NFL season. I am beyond excited. I'm sure those of you that follow football are too. Fantasy draft season has dwindled down, and it is time to go. With that being said, before we get into it, I do want to give you a little bit of a tease. We had a little bit of a production meeting yesterday, and coming soon, this is a big announcement. Breaking news. We are going to be launching very soon GNY Sports. That's right. We've got Good News York, Good News York Sports. What is that going to be? Well, that is going to be a 1 hour live. Well, we might not start live, but eventually it'll be a live stream podcast of just what you think it is, GNY Sports. It's me, and it's going to be guest co-hosts, guest athletes and coaches from the region. Maybe eventually some celebrities. Who knows? Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. That's never going to happen. But we're gonna have a lot of things going on in the way of inviting guests on. That again, our coaches, players. We're going to do segments. We're going to have people calling in possibly or chiming in via remote broadcast, and I'm very excited about this. So we are putting all of that together. Look for that soon. Good News York, as you know, Monday through Friday. It airs 5 p.m. Eastern. And then we are going to be doing GNY Sports on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So look for that. But with that being said, this is not GNY Sports. This is Good News York. It is Wednesday, and it's Mike Brindisi ready to give you the NFL kickoff special. And I want to start with some storylines I want to talk about because there are a lot of storylines throughout the NFL season, some that we've heard already or seen, and it's been beaten to death. The Trey Hendrickson debacle, the Shamar Stewart debacle. I'm noticing a theme with the Bengals. The whole offseason thing with Micah Parsons, James Cook. It seems as if the hold-ins were all successful. So remember that next year, when you're sitting there listening to your team's, radio show or podcast, and they're talking about so-and-so is doing a hold-in, and you start sweating. Listen, as of right now, the ball is in the player's court. James Cook held in. That ended very well. Trey Hendrickson held in. It ended with an extension. I'd say it's good for now. The Micah Parsons was a complete failure by Jerry Jones. And people aren't saying it enough. I think it was a complete failure by Micah Parsons' agent because I think they could have struck a deal. There's been new information that's come out that shows that apparently, allegedly, the Jerry Jones and the Cowboys had offered Micah Parsons more guaranteed money than the Packers actually just gave them, but it was for a shorter time period. Or maybe, no, I think it was a year longer. I think, listen, the Green Bay Packers are one of the most amazing franchises in all of football, right? We know that. Storied, respected, all of that. So I think him going to the Packers is fantastic, especially in that division. I mean, that shakes things up. But at the same time, Micah Parsons' camp claims he wanted to be a Cowboy and he wanted to stay a Cowboy. And we damn well know all the fans wanted him to stay a Cowboy, right? And he's arguably one of the best defensive players we've seen in decades. Football players, forget defensive. So I think there was a way that we all know there was a way that Micah Parsons could have stayed in Dallas, and I think it was more. It was closer than we thought. It's starting to come out that actually the Cowboys had made some strides. But listen, Jerry Jones to me is a cartoon character. It's a dude that's been riding off the success of the '90s. You know, he's like that guy you see at the reunion, your high school reunion, who still wears like the leather jacket and he's living off his football days. You know, like, look, the Cowboys were phenomenal in the '90s. They beat my Buffalo Bills twice in the Super Bowl, twice in a row. And this whole America's team bullshit and him coming out recently and saying, basically admitting in the media that a lot of times he's stirring shit up just to keep the Cowboys in the headlines. And I think that part of the Cowboys, Jerry Jones is amazing for, right? Like, we all know he's a great owner. He's done a lot for the game of football. He was a great owner. He's done a lot for the game of football, but, you know, over the last, I don't know, decade or more, it just seems that he's more focused on the marketing and the keeping the Dallas Cowboys in the storylines, like I said. And that's what he admitted. So, to me, that's a huge aspect of owning a team, marketing. In fact, when we had Jason Smorl on from the Syracuse Mets, I'm always like, so tell me what it's like day to day. And he's like, it's really not that great. I make sure the toilet's flush and that the beer is cold. Or is that the toilets are cold and the beer's flushing? Either way, you know, the job of a GM and the job of an owner is outside of football operations. It's a lot of the boring admin stuff. And marketing. And listen, there's arguably no one better at marketing and taking a team and tripling or quadrupling their value than Jerry Jones. But when you get down to the football operations side of it, dude is just, I don't know. I mean, this Micah Parsons thing could have been done months ago. And I get that now there's information, like I said, that they had reached out and offered more money, but it wasn't in the time frame that Micah and the agent wanted. But it seems genuine that Micah Parsons was absolutely like, what? I'm being traded? I don't think he knew. I don't think he thought that it was truly going to happen. So, man, to be a Dallas sports fan right now, the Luka Doncic thing, and now Micah Parsons, it's pretty wild. So with that, a storyline that is obvious to me to watch, clearly, is in week 4. You've got the Packers at the Cowboys. Micah Parsons coming back to Dallas after all this shit. It is going to be the game of the week. I should have wrote down. I printed out the schedule and I forgot to go grab it, but I don't know what time it is, but it is week 4. That is going to be one to watch. And some more storylines. Eagles-Chiefs week 2. Obviously, it's the Super Bowl rematch. And I have to say, I have this feeling based on the pedigree that Patrick Mahomes has and also seeing him through the preseason, it looks like he is on a mission. And that scares the shit out of me because I think what happened is that they won, 2 out of the last 3 Super Bowls, I think it was. They obviously didn't rest on their laurels because, again, they've been back to 3 out of the 4, the last 3 Super Bowls, win or lose. And it's hard to say that I think they've rested on their laurels, but we've seen that the last couple seasons, that explosive offense hasn't been there since Tyreek Hill left. What's happened is you've got one of the greatest offensive coaches in the history of the NFL at the helm, as well as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time who can do shit that Marvel superheroes can do. And so with that, they were able to make a kind of pedestrian offense look great. Or not even look great, just get it done. But as we know, there was a great thing I saw last season where they showed if every game that the Kansas City Chiefs had squeaked out for a win, because there were like 8 to 9 games where it was decided by a missed field goal or a fumble or some bullshit call by the refs, which is a shocker. And if they just switched who had won that game, if it had just bounced the other way for the other team, their record was like a losing record. So I'm not here to say that they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. Look, we're in the middle of the dynasty, right? I get it. They're great. But this is the first time I hear it and I see it in Mahomes since, he came into the NFL, where I think he's as hungry as he was when he first started. Do I think that offense is going to get back to the, high-flying 30, 40-point offense? No. Rashid Rice is out for the first couple of games. Xavier Worthy to me is a great piece on an offense. I don't think he's strong enough to be a number one, but I think he can get it done. And then, of course, you got Travis Kelce. And don't sleep on the backup tight end. He is Noah. Now I'm blanking out. But the backup tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs is a guy who's already kind of showed that he's NFL ready and he can kind of pick up where Kelce left off. But Kelce, too, has come out in the news saying that, he's kind of rested on his laurels and he was too focused on working on his acting career. So I think they're going to come out with a vengeance, which scares the shit out of me because my team has been haunted by the Chiefs. They can't get over the hump with the Chiefs. And that's without them being pissed off. So brings me back to week 2. You've got a Super Bowl matchup in the Eagles versus Chiefs. I think that's going to be great. Lions Commanders week 10. I got that circled because going into the NFC Conference Championship last season, it was a big surprise that the Commanders were there because it was a team that had just started to turn a terrible franchise, turn it back around. A great coach in Dan Quinn, great ownership, which is where it always starts. Obviously, Jaden Daniels, a rookie who exceeded everyone's expectations, most people's expectations. So we knew they were going to be better. We knew they were going to be even good. But to get to the NFC divisional round and against the Detroit Lions, who we thought, just like the Bills, they've been whacking at the piñata for a couple seasons now. And, the strong pick last season was Bills, Lions, Chiefs, Lions. It seemed to always go back a lot to the Lions. And boy, did the Commanders show up to the NFC Championship and whoop their ass. And it was sad for Detroit fans, and it was sad for the team itself. I think, when I hear people talk about the Bills and the Lions and the Bears, teams that have knocked on the door in the past and then kind of fell short. I guess it's more about teams that just know how to lose in insane ways. The Bills haven't just lost. They lost 4 straight Super Bowls, the first one being a wide right. I mean, the 13 seconds game a few years ago against the Chiefs, which I think they would have went on to win the Super Bowl. It's just they lose in such unbelievable fashion. It's almost impressive how they lose more than they win. So for me, when I hear Lions fans talking about how heartbroken they are, believe me, I get it. That franchise has been in the basement. They were a doormat for a long time, and I'd love to see them win. But if they win before my Bills, I will throw myself in front of a public bus. Because listen, it's not that I don't think that the Lions deserve it. I want it for that franchise. I want it for the city, for the fans, for the team, for Dan Campbell. Who doesn't love Dan Campbell? Wants to bite your kneecaps off while listening to Injustice for All by Metallica. I love the guy. But I think they need to have a little bit more of a heartbreak before I feel bad. Before I really feel bad for him. Look, yes, they've been in the basement, right? But they haven't lost when you thought they were going to win until the Commanders came along last season in the NFC Divisional. They need a little more heartbreak. Heartbreaking losses before that. But I do want to say that speaking of the Lions, again, I had Lions Commanders circled week 10 for storylines to watch. How about week 2 again? Bears Lions. Now, why do I have that circled? The obvious answer, it's a divisional game, of course. It's a divisional game in a division. I don't think I've ever had a harder time picking who I thought the order in which that division is going to play out, or even predicting anything from that division because it's every team could go to the playoffs. But the reason I do have it circled the most is the obvious, if you follow, which is Ben Johnson, one of the most sought-after offensive coordinators for a head coaching position in the last few seasons, a prolific offense. What he did with Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave and Montgomery, as well as making Jared Goff look like a superstar, which, by the way, I think Jared Goff is a guy that doesn't get enough credit. He is an incredible quarterback when it comes to decision-making and going through his reads and all that, but that's a different story. Not only did Ben Johnson leave the Bears and go to the Lions as their, or I'm sorry, excuse me. Not only did he go from the Lions to the Bears and become the head coach of the Bears, he immediately called out some of the other teams in the division, like, say, we're ready to roll you. And there's a lot of expectations for him. And so to see him face his old team in Detroit, it's going to be a good one. So as far as week one goes, and your week one, which starts tomorrow night, here's some storylines to watch. The Jets versus the Steelers. That's right. Justin Fields, who was on the Jets last season, is now, on the Steelers last season, is now on the Jets. And Aaron Rodgers, who was on the Jets last season, is now on the Steelers. Both trying to redeem themselves from pretty putrid seasons. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. I want to watch Burrow's hot start in week one. And I say hot start because not only do I think he's going to start off hot, I think he is going to be my favorite for MVP. But we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. The reason why I want to watch in week one Burrow and the Browns is for two reasons. One, we know that every year Joe Burrow and the team usually starts off 0-2 or 0-3, mostly because he's injured, usually. But they've been perennially slow starters. And then so the rest of the season, they are just trying to catch up to get that wild card. And what I've seen from Burrow is the same thing I talked about a few minutes ago about Patrick Mahomes. He is pissed off. I watched the quarterback documentary on Netflix. He's pissed. He is done. He's fully healthy finally. He's done with the whole, the Bengals, they can't start off fast. They're, everything I just talked about. The question, they locked up T. Higgins. They locked up Jamar Chase. So he's got his core, his core. Chase Brown is there, who's an underrated running back. Everybody's set to go. We all know their offense is one of the best offenses in the league. The defense is the question. That's what's really been keeping them from the playoffs and having them struggle in addition to them the slow start. So I want to see if Burrows is pissed off and on a mission as I think. So, Burrow and the Bengals versus the Browns in week one, that's exciting. But what makes it even more exciting, believe it or not, Joe Burrow's numbers against the Browns, 3-5 record. That's right, the Browns, who everybody tramples on. I believe, and don't mark me on this, I think that's the team that gives him the most shit in the division. That makes it the hardest for him. He just can't get over that hump. And I want to see that. Can he take the Browns down in week one? And can the Bengals actually start 1-0 for the first time? Chiefs-Chargers in week one, another storyline to watch. Why? Yes, again, it is a division game. Division games are always great to watch. But are the Chargers for real? I don't think I've heard anybody else. I mean, people talk about the Broncos, and the Raiders are exciting because they're turning around. That division's very exciting, probably having 4 head coaches now. I don't think we've ever seen 4 head coaches of this magnitude in one division. So any division game in that division is going to be great because they're going to cannibalize each other. And that's why every single division game in that division, just like the NFC North, matters, and the NFC East, to be honest. It matters more than normal. But more than any other team in the division, people really have this feeling. I think it's the Broncos, but people think it's going to be the Chargers that really challenge the Chiefs for the division title this year. So let's see, do the Chargers look like they can keep up with the Chiefs in week one? And also, is Mahomes on that vengeance I talked about? Last 2, Raiders, Patriots in week one. Interesting. Why would I pick that? I'm picking that because Tom Brady is now one of the owners of the Raiders. They've brought in Pete Carroll. They've made a ton of moves. They drafted a star, what we think is going to be an absolute star blue chip rookie. But remember, Josh McDaniels is on the Pats now. And the Patriots, their dynasty was Josh McDaniels, who can't coach anywhere else unless he's the offensive coordinator of the Patriots. Then for some reason he's a superstar. Anywhere else, he's trash. At least that's how it's been. That's what the numbers tell us, right? So seeing Josh McDaniels, who just got hired again as the offensive coordinator of the Patriots, with Vrabel, facing off against the Raiders, coached by Pete Carroll, but more importantly, do you think, we don't know, does Brady talk to them and say, listen, I know every goddamn move that McDaniels is going to make. Look for this, look for that. I have to believe in some sort of capacity. Do owners generally do that? No, but owners aren't generally Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time. And I'm not afraid to say that anymore, as much as it hurts me, because after seeing Belichick's performance in college in week 1, I know it was week 1, and after seeing Brady win a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Bucks, it seems like that marriage in New England was mostly Brady and not as much Belichick as we thought. So will Brady give them some sort of intel, and can the Raiders take down the Patriots in week 1? Lastly, Ravens-Bills. Am I being a homer on this? A little bit. Yeah, of course. I'm a Bills fan. I love them more than anything. But every single home game this season is the hardest game for the Bills. They lucked out. They finally have a schedule that is one of the easiest in the league. All their hard games are at home, and it starts off with, of course, the Baltimore Ravens, who, other than the Bills, are my pick for possible to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. They're stacked. They are great. Lamar Jackson's a superstar. John Harbaugh, who I'm kind of getting sick of, but he knows how to win. And they've got, of course, Derrick Henry, who's the scariest son of a bitch on the planet. So this game, while every game in the NFL is important, this game really sets the tone because Baltimore's on a vengeance. They lost to the Bills in the playoffs in Buffalo last season. But let's be honest, as a Bills fan, even I can admit, they squeaked it out. There was a couple, it was a Mark Andrews fumble, I believe, and then, of course, the famous Mark Andrews drop in the end zone. Lamar Jackson had a fumble. He had an interception. The Bills, look, you don't keep track of how it happened, right? You're not going to look back and go, oh, yes, I remember the Bills beat the Ravens, but, man, they squeaked it out. A win's a win, especially in the playoffs. But I have a feeling that pissed the Ravens off, and there's no snow on the ground because Lamar Jackson is not good in the cold weather. He's admitted it. There's no snow on the ground in week 1 in Buffalo, believe it or not. So I do think that this is an important matchup for obvious reasons, but mostly because this could be the difference between the 1 seed at the end of the season. This could be the difference in Buffalo playing in Baltimore or Baltimore playing in Buffalo. It is a huge game to start. Bills are knocked around, a little injured. There's some questions at the safety position. One of the defensive linemen who isn't necessarily a key piece. He's a second-year player. Carter tore his Achilles. So there's some questions on the defense, and if you've been following the Bills or following the NFL, you know. The Bills have not been able to get over the Chiefs in the playoffs. We know this. All right, and the Bengals one time. That was after the DeMar Hamlin thing. That's a different story. But I'm not being a homer when I say, if you look back, Josh Allen has never lost to Mahomes. The Buffalo Bills defense has lost to the Mahomes. The coaches, Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier, they've lost to Mahomes. 13 seconds. I mean, Josh Allen could not have done anything else. They changed the rules of the playoffs, overtime in the playoffs, because of what happened. He didn't even get a chance to come back out. It was one of the greatest games in the history of football, not even the Bills and Chiefs. And Allen, I mean, the dude, the only thing he could have done is put a headset on and coach the game himself. The defense has always let the Bills down. They're a bend, don't break kind of defense. McDermott and Bean have always put together. So, and again, this year, they spent so much draft capital and money in the offseason on beefing up the defensive line. They drafted Max Harrison. He's hurt. Trey White comes back as kind of a vet to help out Max Harrison. He's hurt. So this is going to be a game that I feel the Ravens are going to edge this one out, but it's a huge, huge game. So that's another storyline to watch in week 1. Now, I want to talk about real quick some players, some sleeper players and breakout players. That people, I guess you could say for fantasy, but also in reality, I think these are going to be sleeper/breakout players this year. Let's start with rookies. This Isaac Tesla from the Detroit Lions, slot receiver, he looked like, now again, I know it's the preseason, but I don't judge. I'm not judging because he looked good in a preseason game. I'm using my eyes, my football eyes and ears. I see what I see. I watch enough football to know that guy looks NFL ready. He looks like a young Julian Edelman. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. Tootin, the running back in Jacksonville. It's a crowded backfield. Jacksonville a few weeks ago put both Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne Jr. on the trade block. And I saw him at the Combine, and when I did the draft special, I talked about him. I think he's got a chance to really surprise the shit out of some people. Tyler Warren, maybe not so much a surprise because he was drafted in the top 10. They thought Colston Loveland was going to get drafted before him, but he, again, not only did I like him coming out, he looked real good and real ready, especially in an offense. The Daniel Jones experiment is still going on. You got Michael Pittman, you've got Jonathan Taylor, you've got some great pieces, but I think he has a chance, other than those guys, to really be the factor, the X factor in that offense. Keep an eye on Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, came from Iowa State, drafted by the Texans. He has potential. He's got potential. With Diggs gone now, that was a one-year project, test, if you will. He's going to be thrown in there with Tank Dell, who's had a serious injury in the past. Nico Collins, I think he's got a shot to make some noise. This is going to sound crazy. There's something I like about Tyler Shuck. What do I like about him the most? Yeah, he's older. He's like Andy Dalton, excuse me. He's like, who the hell came out that was like 28 years old? Brandon Whedon, with much more talent, I think. I like the way Tyler Shuck, there's something I talk about with rookies that you can't beat. People talk about, when a rookie is coming from Ohio State, like an SEC team or a Big Ten team, they're playing in NFL-style offenses. They're going to be more ready. Yes, all those things matter. But to me, what matters more than all of that is experience. And this dude, if you look back, Tyler Shuck has taken an incredible amount of snaps as well as played an incredible amount of games, and he's ready to go. And I mean, believe me, I don't think that New Orleans is going to do very much. Is it New Orleans or New Orleans? I'll say New Orleans. New Orleans isn't going to do very much this season, but they're starting to make that turn. But I think he's going to surprise some people. Jackson Dart, not really under the radar. I just think that dude is going to ball. I think he's going to come in. I think something's going to happen, and Russ is going to just have to take a seat. And I think when the Giants have the toughest schedule in the NFL. I see a spot, and I forget where it is, but when they play Carolina, I think it's like week 4 or 5 or 6, somewhere in there. I think mark my words, I think that's where Jackson Dart comes in and takes the league by storm. He looks real good. I went to the Bills-Giants preseason game, and I saw him live. I liked him coming out of college. I didn't think he was going to look this good. So Eric Aomanor, I think is how you say it. Aomanor. He's on the Titans. He's a wide receiver. Under the radar, Stanford. Look for him. And then Trey Harris, a guy that I wanted on the Bills along with Kyle Williams. Trey Harris is going to be on the Chargers. And I think with Justin Herbert and, of course, their coach, Harbaugh, he's got a chance to edge Quentin Johnson for wide receiver too. And I loved him at Ole Miss. And lastly, I said Kyle Williams. He looked like a young Stephon Diggs to me, another guy I wanted on the Bills, wide receiver. He got drafted by the Pats, which pissed me off. And guess who he's going to be in the wide receiver room with? Stephon Diggs, who can kind of show him the ropes. And he's got he gets off the line just like Diggs does. So I think we'll talk about the Patriots and what I think. Quickly, players that are not rookies that I think will be sleepers or breakouts. You're going to laugh. Wan'Dale Robinson. Why did I say Wan'Dale Robinson? What is he, like wide receiver 48 in the league? Why? Because Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart are going to be at the helm. One or both of those quarterbacks who are a way bigger upgrade than Daniel Jones. And you've got to remember, Malik Neighbors, who's probably my favorite wide receiver in football, by the way, he has not been able to stay healthy yet, and I don't think he's still fully healthy. When he's on the field, obviously those two together are going to help each other in production, but especially if he has to go out on injury or if he doesn't start week 1, I think you're going to see Wan'Dale Robinson's production shoot up. Chris Olave, I talked about Tyler Shuck and what I think he can do. And you've got Kamara, and you've got other pieces on that offense. If Chris Olave, again, if he can stay healthy, I think he's a wide receiver that's been forgotten about all the way down there all the way down there in Louisiana. Marvin Mims. I love Bo Nix. I loved him coming out of the draft last year. He had a great first season. He's in second year with a Sean Payton offense. You know he's going to be good. Cortland Sutton and him are going to be lethal. But watch out for Marvin Mims. He's an under-the-radar guy. Don't forget about Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is coming off of an injury. He'll be back like week 6. Actually, I think he's suspended. But he's also coming off an injury as well. And when he comes in, people forget about him. People forget about players that are injured or suspended. I forget the exact stat, but he was on track to. He only played a certain amount of games last year, and he was at like 1,300 yards. If he had played a full season, he'd have like 2,000 yards. He was trending that way, of course. Anything could have happened. But he is a receiver that knows how to get open. He's in a Kyle Shanahan offense. He's one of the best receivers in the league when he's on the field. And with Deebo Samuel gone, Juwan Jennings kind of a question mark. That brings me to not only Ayuk, who I, again, think is going to be huge when he comes back. Until Ayuk comes back, this is more fantasy than reality. Ricky Pearsall, baby. That dude got shot in the offseason as a rookie and still had a good season. Who gets shot and still has a good season? He didn't get shot this offseason, and he is going to be, again, like I just said, in a Kyle Shanahan offense with Brock Purdy, who's a game general. And with Deebo Samuel being gone and Brandon Ayuk not there, you've got him, Kittle, and Juwan Jennings. So he'll be a great one. And I talked about New Orleans. Look out for Rashid Shaheed and Alvin Kamara to have a breakout year. Rashid Shaheed, again, he's down in Louisiana, stuck in the bayou. They've got a good young quarterback, and I think they're going to do something. And Okonkwo, I think I said his name right, the Titans tight end, another guy you're going to watch for, because Cam Ward, who's probably the least talked about rookie in the history, or number one pick of all time, I think he's going to have a good year. How good, I don't know. It's the Titans. But I think him and Okonkwo, if I said that right, are going to have a great year. And lastly, I've got 2 more things on this sports edition of Good News York. Again, I'm Mike Brindisi here on Good News York. It is Wednesday. Good News York, sponsored by Ads on the Go. Get Ads on the Go. Doing a little bit of a sports segment without Matt today, who, again, isn't here. So I thought I'd do a little solo NFL Kickoff special, which starts tomorrow night, week 1. We've talked about storylines. We've talked about sleeper and breakout players. Let's get down to the division winners and wild card. And I'm going to make this quick. I'm not going to make you suffer. Start with the AFC. Divisions in order. These are my picks. Some of it is based on strength of schedule, but I don't put too much stock in it. I look at these games and I listen, I watch, I use my eyes. I don't like to listen to other media and kind of hop on those bandwagons. I watch and I listen, and I'm going to take a pause here. We're going to edit, timestamp it. Forget what I just said there. Now we're going to go back. All right, we've talked about sleepers and breakout players. We've talked about storylines in week 1 and throughout the season. Let's just get down to it. My division picks and playoff picks. Here we go. I'm going to make it quick for you. Starting the AFC. AFC North, one of the hardest divisions in the NFL. It is so hard to pick this. For me, it's the AFC North, the NFC North, and the NFC East. Those 3 divisions to me are the hardest to choose. But I gotta go with the Ravens in first place for obvious reasons. The Bengals, they are on a mission. Joe Burrow is pissed off. They're tired of starting slow. They have one of the best offenses when everyone's healthy in the league. Bengals come in second place. This may surprise you. I am putting the Cleveland Browns in third place. What? Look, I know it's the Browns, and the Browns be Browning, and they are a disaster. Not as much on the field these days as they are as a franchise, as a whole. If you look at that roster from top to bottom, I mean, they are stacked. And one of my favorite defensive coaches in the league, defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, who he coached. One of my favorite defenses the Bills ever had was coached by him. He doesn't get enough credit. I think they're better than the Steelers, who I have finishing in fourth. Because why? I think the Steelers are so overrated. I think Mike Tomlin is getting a longer leash than he should, albeit I know he's one of the best coaches in the league. What have you done for me lately? I think the Steelers' defense looks phenomenal, but I just think that Aaron Rodgers is over the I get it was the Jets, but man, he did not look like himself last year. Yes, he's older. I'm not trying to discriminate on his age as much as I am. He had an Achilles tear. If you're in your 20s and you have an Achilles tear, there's no guarantee on how good you're going to be when you come back. I'm sorry. I'm putting the Steelers in the basement. You can make fun of me when it doesn't happen because it seems like they always squeak out with 9 or 10 wins every season and they get in the playoffs anyway. Let's head to the AFC West. The Chiefs, they're pissed off. They have a chip on their shoulder from their Super Bowl loss. The Chiefs be chiefing. As long as they've got Mahomes and Reed, it's going to be hard for me to take them out of first until someone else does. But here's what might surprise you. I'm sorry. I believe in Sean Payton. I love Bo Nix. I love the defense in Denver. They've got some thin air there. And I think they're just going to edge out the Chargers for second place in the AFC West. Why? Great defense, a Hall of Fame offensive coach, and a roster that is surprisingly one of the best in the NFL. Maybe not everyone knows that. How am I putting the Chargers in third? Well, for every reason I just said, the Broncos should be in second, but I just can't trust Justin Herbert. He was phenomenal in the regular season, fell apart in the playoffs. He's got some injury questions. I love Harbaugh. Everywhere he goes, he wins, but this is one of the hardest divisions with 4 Hall of Fame head coaches in the division. The first time I think that's ever happened. Someone's got to be in third, and for me, it's the Chargers. They be chargering. And then the Raiders are in fourth. I know, there's a lot of talk about the Raiders being a surprise team. I get it. And they are going to do some great things. And I love Pete Carroll. I think he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. Again, I said 4 Hall of Fame coaches in the division. But they're not there yet. They're on the turn. They've got some great pieces. Geno Smith, sure. Ashton Genty, blue chip rookie. Max Crosby, probably the best defensive end or top 3 in the league. But you can't pick everybody. There's 4 division winners and 3 wild card spots. So Raiders, they're going to be in the basement, but that division could be better than the rest of the league. Maybe all 4 get in. Who the hell knows? Let's go to the AFC East. I've got my Buffalo Bills in first. I'm not being a homer. If you've been watching football, they've won the last 5 seasons. But here's what might surprise you. I have the Pats in second. I have the Jets in third. I have the Dolphins in the basement. The Dolphins, to me, now, Mike McDaniel's record with Tua is phenomenal. Without Tua, it's one of the worst in the league. They can't beat the Bills. They've literally beat the Bills, I think, twice since Josh Allen's been there in all these years. More importantly, even though Mike McDaniels looks like he should be selling vapes at a bodega, he is a brilliant offensive mind. But if you've been following their offseason, I don't know what's going on. People wanting trades, them wanting to trade away players, the Jalen Ramsey thing. Tua can't stay healthy. I just think there's players coming out and expressing their unhappiness. I just think there's too much distraction going on off the field. I think this is McDaniel's last season. I think they finish in the basement. So that's what I'm going to do there is Bills, Pats, Jets, Dolphins. And we'll move on to the AFC South. I've got the Texans. I think the Texans, with DeMeco Ryans, they're the obvious favorite. I got the Jags in second. I love what the Jags have done, adding their new coach, who's a great offensive mind. We'll see how it translates, how he translates as a head coach. Puts the Titans in third. I think Cam Ward's going to have a great season, but they, again, like many other teams, like the Raiders, they're building. And then I got the Colts in last. The Colts have a lot of great pieces on offense and defense. They've got a decent coach. But to me, I can't think of a more mid-vanilla team than the Indianapolis Colts. Moving on to the NFC. Oh, wait, hold on. How could I forget? My wild card teams. Wild card teams for the AFC. This may surprise you. I have the New England Patriots, who I have coming in second, obviously, in the AFC East. People are saying, I think they're taking a step in the right direction, but they're not there yet. I say bullshit. If you saw what they added on defense in the offseason, also bringing Mike Vrabel, who is a proven young head coach who used to be a Patriot. You throw in Mike McDaniels, the superstar offensive coordinator of that dynasty. Drake May, who I think is phenomenal. It's his second year. They gave him Stephon Diggs. They gave him Kyle Williams out of this draft. I think, not only do I think they're going to win the wild card, I'm going to get shit for this. I think they challenge the Bills for the division. I really, really do. My second wild card team is the Bengals, and it's Joe Burrow. All he does is win. Win, 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 no matter what. And my third, the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and the boys. They made the playoffs last year. I think they make the playoffs again. Now we'll move on to the NFC. Starting in the NFC North, literally, I may as well take each team, throw them in the air, let it land, and I'll just pick it that way. I've never had a harder time in my entire life picking a division. But I'm going to do it. I think Micah Parsons, what the Green Bay Packers have done and perennially do, which is win. I love what they did in the draft. I love what they did in the offseason. One of the key things they were missing was a defensive end. Yeah. Do I think one player moves the needle a lot for a team? Not usually. But a player, a generational Hall of Fame player, a future Hall of Fame player like Micah Parsons does move the needle enough for me in a division that tight to win that division. I really, really think so. I think Packers win the division with the Lions right behind them. It's hard for me to not pick the Lions. I understand they lost Ben Johnson, but that team had more injuries than a WWE Royal Rumble. I don't know why I used that as a reference. But, I mean, they had like 15 or 16 players banged up on defense last year. I got to go with what have you done for me lately? Do I love the Vikings? I hate putting them in third. I hate putting the Bears in fourth. But that's what I got. Why? Just like the AFC West. Someone's got to be in third and fourth. Any one of these teams could win the division. So if you look back and you're like, you got it completely wrong. The Bears won. You had them in last. I know. They probably will. Who knows? Each team is so good and so tightly, I mean, just centimeters between each team. I got to go with the Vikings in third. And the reason I did, I'm a huge Kevin O'Connell fan, coach of the year last year. But I just think with J.J. McCarthy, I think he's going to be great, especially with Kevin O'Connell as his head coach, who is a QB developer extraordinaire. But given the schedule, given how tough the division is, and just how much J.J. McCarthy might, I don't know. There's just too much of a question mark. You know, you got to remember, J.J. McCarthy coming out of college, he wasn't even that great at Michigan. He was just a game manager. Now, I don't hold that against him. I think he was great. They won a national championship. But in the NFL and in a division as hard as the NFC North, I think he's just a little wet behind the ears. So I think they finish in third. And the Bears, I mean, look, Ben Johnson. I love Caleb Williams. Again, as much as I think they could come in fourth, I think they could come in first. But someone's got to go there. It's the Bears. I just think Caleb Williams is just mentally not there yet. He's got the athletic ability. Ben Johnson's the type of coach that can rein him in and hone his skills. But again, given the division, someone's got to finish in fourth. And NFC West, I got the Rams. The Rams are stacked, baby. I love me some Matthew Stafford. Devontae Adams, probably one of the greatest receivers of all time. He's phenomenal. I think with a coach like McVay and what have you done for me lately and their roster and kind of a weaker division, I'm going with the Rams. I'm also going to go with the Niners in second. Now, before I made this list, I was ready to put the Niners in the basement. But I looked, and I thought, Kyle Shanahan, he wins. You've got the defensive coordinator back who was just a head coach in the NFL for the Jets. He's back. Can't think of his name right now. I'm blanking out. But what have you done for me lately? Just like I was talking about with the Lions, Kyle Shanahan knows how to win. That organization knows how to win. It's a weaker division. They have an easier schedule. More importantly, they had so many injuries last year that I think when this team is healthy, they always have a shot at winning the division. In third, I'm putting the Seahawks, who, again, I think what Sam Darnold did in Minnesota just shows you he's got the ability, but he completely fell apart under pressure in the playoffs. And so for that, I think being in a division with the Rams and Niners, I think the Seahawks will be good, but not enough. And then the Cards in the basement because it's the Cardinals. I'm sorry. They've got a lot of great pieces, but the Cards are cardinaling, right? I think someone's got to come in fourth, and for me, it is the Cardinals. But it wouldn't surprise me if any of these teams were jumbled around as far as second, third, and fourth. I think for me, the Rams are the clear-cut division winner, but the next three, shake them and roll them. But that's what I got. NFC East, again, one of the three hardest divisions in football. Eagles, just Howie Roseman, incredible GM. They just won the Super Bowl. Did they lose some key defensive players? Yes. But they also drafted some amazing defensive players. Eagles, what have you done for me lately? All you've done is won. You're in the middle of possibly a dynasty. So I got the Eagles in first. I got the Commanders in second. I have the Giants in third because they have the hardest schedule in football. And then, of course, that leaves me with the Cowboys in fourth, which that's easy for me because, holy shit. The difference, if you look at the stats between the Cowboys defense when Micah Parsons was on the field, it's something like top 3 in the NFL, maybe top 5. When Micah Parsons wasn't on the field last season, it was like 28th. It was crazy, the difference. And with all the bullshit, yes, I know they brought in George Pickens, and they've got a new head coach. They have a very tough division. And then all that debacle and noise outside with Jerry Jones. And as long as Jerry Jones is the owner, I'll never take them truly seriously. I got the Cowboys in the basement. Now, you could take the Eagles, Commanders, and Giants. I have them in that order. And you could shake them up because it will not surprise me if the Giants, could squeak out a second place. I think having the hardest schedule in the division they're in, that won't happen. But, man, I think Russ and possibly Jackson Dart coming in, I think with Abdul Carter, they could make some noise. But for me, it's Eagles, Commanders, Giants, and then the Cowboys. NFC South, last one I've got the Tampa Bay Bucks. I think they are so underrated. I think Baker Mayfield is an incredible quarterback. He's a gunslinger. He doesn't get enough credit because I think the way he kind of came into the league a little cocky, people like to kind of trash him. But listen, Tampa Bay, they're in a weak division, a division that's building. But to me, there is no doubt. And they drafted Egbuka, who I think could be possibly Offensive Rookie of the Year. That dude is NFL ready. Chris Godwin's out, yes. Mike Evans a little bit older. They got Bucky Irving. They've got Rashad White. They have a good defense. I love Tampa Bay. They could be a sleeper pick for the Super Bowl, but I'm not going to do that today. In second, I've got the Falcons. In third, the Panthers. I like what the Panthers have done in what they're building there. But not enough to do much more than third. I think Bryce Young will take a step forward. And then lastly, the Saints, who I think may even have the number one pick. Again, they've made some decent moves. They have a few key pieces, but for me, just not enough. Wild card, I'm going to give you two teams from the same division, the hardest division. I got the Lions and the Vikings making the playoffs in the wild card, and then the Commanders as well. All right, last but not least, on this Good News York, sponsored by Ads on the Go, getadsonthego.com. Good News York Sports NFL Kickoff Special, because Matt's not here today. NFL kicking off week 1 tomorrow night. I want to end this segment with my yearly award predictions. Now, this is ballsy. I'm not going to lie. This is really ballsy because you're pretty much playing the field. But I'm going to do this for two reasons. One, if I get any of these right, I'm going to look like a fucking stud. And if I get any of these wrong, it could be hilarious how wrong I am. This is what we're going to do. Here's my prediction on the end-of-year NFL AP Awards. Offensive Player of the Year, I am going to give it to a man I just talked about, Baker Mayfield. You heard me. Baker Mayfield. The dude knows how to sling it. That's all he does. He's a winner. He's got grit. He's tough. And he's in a division. It's pretty easy to rack up some good numbers. And if you look at his numbers last season, I know he led in fantasy. I think he led fantasy, all of fantasy in fantasy points. That's my Offensive Player of the Year. My Defensive Player of the Year, Max Crosby. Now, he's one of the top defensive ends in the league. So is it chalk? Maybe. But I'm going against the field here. You have to remember, who's coaching him now? Who? Pete Carroll, one of the greatest of all times. Who's my MVP? I'll save that for last. Let's move on to my Coach of the Year. I'm going to give you a guy by the name of Mike Vrabel. Why? He's a great coach, obviously, but I think he's going to take a team that people expect to take some strides. He's going to take them to the playoffs in the wild card and challenge the Bills for the division, and it makes me want to vomit just saying that. But because of that, I think he wins Coach of the Year. Who's the comeback player of the year? I thought about McCarthy, but then I thought, I hate that he's even considered because I don't even think he played a snap in the regular season. Or I think he got hurt in the preseason, so I don't even think he should be eligible. So I crossed him out, and I changed it to Aiden Hutchinson, one of the biggest game wreckers in the NFC, soon to be in the NFL, if not already. He had a terrible injury last year. The story is that he has worked harder than anybody at coming back, so I think Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end for the Detroit Lions, is your comeback player of the year. Offensive Rookie of the Year. This one kills me. I could listen to my honorable mentions. This is probably one of my favorite offensive rookie classes. Maybe rookie classes altogether of all time. I think it is going to be, these offensive rookies are going to come in and crush. I mean, I like Matthew Golden. I like Tet McMillan. I like Cam Ward. I like Omarion Hampton. I like Ashton Genty. He's the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I like Tyler Warren. I think he's going to be the key, like Ladd McConkey was to the Chargers. I think Tyler Warren will be to the Colts this year. So it came down to two players. Emil Egbuka and Trey Henderson. Trey Henderson, if you remember on the draft special, which you don't, and that's fine, but I have to say it, I thought was the best running back coming out other than Ashton Genty. I think he's phenomenal. Then he did in the preseason, he ran it back, and then everybody hopped on my wagon. So, but the more I watched Egbuka, who I loved, the more I watched him in the preseason and I hear what they're talking about, I think he is going to be the key to that offense. I think he's going to be a breakout rookie star. But just to protect my pride in knowing that TreVeyon Henderson was going to be great, I'm going to pick TreVeyon Henderson as my offensive rookie of the year. And I say that I kind of say it like this. Only because he's on the Patriots, who is the team I probably hate the most next to the Jets. But also, I just don't know how many snaps he's going to get. He is still technically behind Ramondre Stevenson. I don't know Vrabel enough to know, or I guess McDaniels was in an offense that was known for passing, albeit they had Brady. I think Egbuka is going to have a lot more snap count percentage, so he probably edges it. But again, I'm going to stick to my guns. And I'm going to call TreVeyon Henderson Offensive Rookie of the Year. It brings me to my Defensive Rookie of the Year. Abdul Carter is probably going to get it. He's a generational talent. He's the favorite on all the sports books. But man, my favorite defensive player coming out of the draft was Jihad Campbell, linebacker defensive end for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he was the best defensive player in the draft. You heard me, other than Abdul Carter. So he's going to be my Defensive Rookie of the Year. Honorable mention to Malachi Starks on the Ravens, as well as Mike Green on the Ravens. Honorable mention to Jahdae Barron, defensive back for the Broncos. James Pierce Jr. for the Tennessee Titans, linebacker, and the Falcons, Jalen Walker, defensive end. Those are my honorable mentions. And that leads me to my last award prediction for the year, and I kind of hinted at it. I may have already said it. My MVP of the year is Joe freaking Burrow, baby. I think that dude is on a mission. He's perennially one of the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks in the league. All he does is know how to win, even on a team with shitty defenses. They're always either in the playoffs or sniffing the playoffs. He's been to the Super Bowl within the first 2 years of his career. He's, to me, and I'm talking about sheer talent and just watching him with his eyes and his play style and his abilities, he's the closest thing I've seen to Tom Brady. I know. That's what it sounds like to me. He, to me, is not only a phenomenal quarterback that looks like Brady. I'm making this ruling. But I think he's on a mission. Like I said, he's pissed off. He's tired of them starting 0-2, 0-3. He's tired of being hurt for the beginning of the season. He's always throwing up big numbers in the season. in fantasy and in reality, but this year I think he just fucking goes off. He gets them to the playoffs, whether that's division or, as I picked, wild card. I think Joe Burrow's your NFL MVP. With that being said, I know it's been a long episode, but it's the NFL, baby, and there's a lot to talk about. Mike Brindisi with you on this Wednesday. Good News York, brought to you by Ads on the Go. Get adsonthego.com. Shout out to Zach and his crew. Before we go, I want to tease GNY going to be going live soon. Good News York, we are going to be going live soon from 9:30 to 10:30 every day. But for now, you can catch us Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And GNY Sports, that's right. Good News York Sports is going to be launched soon as well. That'll be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That may be live eventually. We'll probably start pre-recorded. That's going to be, I'm not sure when that will be released. I'm assuming around the same time that Good News York comes out, probably in the evening time. But don't worry about the time now. Just look for Good News GNY Sports coming up soon. Hosted by me. I'm going to have guest co-hosts. We're going to have guests in general, athletes, coaches, regionally, maybe even nationally. We're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of ball busting. But today was just serious business. I had to be very serious. You heard my predictions. I'm going to cut it up and make myself look good at the end of the season, and then you can cut it up and say all the things I got wrong and make me look bad. I love you. Mike Brindisi for Good News York. Let's go, Bills. NFL starts tomorrow night. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.